consistency, durability, high-octane gameplay, and one shredder of a carbine. Hi, I'm Six Snipes, and I've put a considerable number of hours into Insurgency Sandstorm. I've used every gun, played every mode, and have seen just enough action to tell you what reaching rank 200 in this game looks like. I've decided to make a series of videos about my top 5 most used guns and why these are some of the most fun and effective in the average gameplay experience. Today I'm talking about my number 5 gun, the AKS, and this is Gun Guide. The AKS-74u, or else the Krinkov or the Crank, is a deviation of the AK-74, an already lower caliber model of the AKM being chambered in the 5.45 round. Low caliber, low drag, and low profile describe the package that is the AKS. It's a stubby AK. With all the Kalashnikovs in the game to choose from, you might wonder why I'm reviewing this one first. Because of all the different variants of the same pattern rifle, this is the one you're all sleeping on. The stats alone of this gun are so radically different that the most standard variants of it are almost not even an AK anymore. Functionally speaking, this is the most diverse AK you'll pick up. It's an animal in close quarters and competitive enough to beat out bigger guns on a field. It's not even my favorite AK, that's for another video, but one could easily make the argument that this is the best AK, if not the best gun in its class entirely. Considered to be an exotic firearm as it's exclusive to advisor classes outside of domination, the AKS has a history of dominating close quarters. Formerly, the breacher was the primary role employing this weapon, though it was also made available through the advisor class in order to emphasize the versatility of that pick. Ever since the addition of several fantastic breacher weapons during the Nightfall update, however, the breacher armory is short of the AKS and advisors now have it exclusively. It features several advantages over its AK-74 brother. It's cheaper, it's shorter, and most effectively it boasts a whopping 723 rounds per minute. That's only slightly less than an M4. With a similar caliber, this effectively means you're just holding a pocket M4 at almost half the price. Very forgiving on attachments too. You won't need anything to control recoil or muzzle drift. There's effectively none, and the iron sights are as good as any optic in my opinion. Low profile, quite clear. I personally run this with a flash hider and extended mag and call it a day. Tracers are a preference, but let's be real, kid, you want to shoot lasers, kid, you do. Something this specialized being as cheap as the standard AK means you can already invest those points you'd normally spend on foregrips and junk on better gear like grenades. In Domination, which is the mode I played for footage of this video, I was able to run a geared out AKS with a Glock as a secondary, and boy did it come in handy a couple times. And this gun really shines when it comes to defending objectives where corners are tight and line of sight precision is key. Now, this is where people would probably point out that the longer AK-74 has better accuracy.
You serious?
This is technically correct. Basic spray pattern tests prove this. However, we're not dumping entire magazines from the hip like some kid burned our patch here. Insurgency is all about something called controlled bursts. It only takes 2 or 3 of these things to kill a guy. We're not playing COD here. It's not exact science, bud. And accuracy wasn't really an issue at any of the ranges I used this thing on, and I fielded it on all kinds of maps. Dark CQB areas like parking garage on Ministry to the open rice fields of the Tideway, this thing performed admirably at any range. To be perfectly honest, if you want to run this thing at range, use the PKS sight, which is my preferred optic and seats lower on this gun because it's custom fit to AK types. The 1.5 magnification is more than enough to operate at greater distances and still retain close quarters dominance. This level of precision, short range proficiency, paired with its incredibly snappy and satisfying reload animation, and the gun makes for a very clutch alternative to something like the MP5 or Honey Badger. It's also worth mentioning that with a suppressor attachment, it's almost the same length as a standard AK, so you're not losing much in terms of maneuverability, and if you're wondering, the length of your weapon does in fact affect the distance at which it pulls upwards when near corners and surfaces. This is basically so you can't use a Barrett as a shotgun. I ran this PKAS suppressor build on Ministry and went absolutely ape. I may not have played all the objectives and defense I could have, but all the flanks and room clearing bagged me most kills at 20, and yes, everyone hated me. Before I wrap up here, I think that's worth mentioning that with such a cheap platform, it may be tempting to run something as expensive as a drum mag and think that's a good idea. I did too, and here's exactly why it's not. I played roughly 1.5 games with this hunky-dunky piece of trash before realizing that it was somehow skewing my performance. After dropping it, I did just fine. Checking the stats menu, you can actually see that the addition of a drum mag boosts your horizontal recoil by double. Not to mention that this completely negates your ability to reload in a timely manner. It kind of ends up trashing you way more than helping. Take it from me, you don't need 50 rounds. To summarize, there's an endless tally of mad benefits to get from this little gun. Sure, it's not as accurate as a standard AK, and you can't get a bipod or run grenade launchers or the upcoming underslung shotguns because we all know this gun just couldn't do that in real life. But when it comes to sheer fracking potential and outgunning your opponents in a game of bang for your buck, this will carry you time after time after time. And I think that wraps it up rather nicely here. I don't feel like I need to say anything else except for try this gun for yourself. Oh, yeah, I do actually. Like and subscribe. Please.